Once again, in the man of the British challenge for outright victory at Le Mans, the Jaguars were earlier rivals at the scrutineering phase. But this year, the team had been reshuffled, and Mike Hawthorne was to be the #1 driver, partnered by 500cc expert Ivor Buett, their racing number 6. The entry was as fully representative of us, together adding up to nothing short of a United Nations of motor racing. And once again, the Germans had re-entered the field, determined upon a repeat performance of their 23rd hour victory in 1952. Sterling Moss was to share their #1 car with Fangio, and Alfred Neubauer was there, for wherever Mercedes go, there is to be seen the formidable shape of their team manager. Meantime, those who still regard motor racing as a sporting spectacle came rolling in by their tens of thousands to pitch their tents or not-so-lonely caravans. Triumph TR2s, to be driven by Bob Dixon and Ninian Sanderson, Les Brooks and Mortimer Morris Goodall, and Ken Richardson, the Works Competitions manager, who was to share his wheel with Bert Hadley. Maserati had 2 3-litre cars and 1 2-litre model. The 1100 Cooper was to make its Le Mans debut, and no matter how much you'd been around, there was a great deal to delight the eye. Lance Macklin's privately entered Austin Healey was alongside Ted Lund's Reserve MG. The other 2 MGAs, making their first appearance, were to be in the hands of Dick Jacobs and Joe Flynn, and Ken Miles and Johnny Lockett. Ferrari entered 5 cars, 3 4.5s and 2 3-litres, to be driven by an Italian-French-American combine. But as so often happened, the Mercedes organization succeeded in becoming the focal point of much of the pre-race ballyhoo. Here, the Kling-Simon car follows the Moss-Fangio entry to their pits. The complex regulations of Le Mans demand a minimum of 32 laps, 270 miles between refueling stops. All cars run on the pump fuel supplied, and fuel tank, radiator and oil filler are sealed to enforce these rules. For the driver, before the start, there is much to think about. For the organizers, the timetable is already in operation, and events move smoothly and inevitably forward towards their 0 hour at 4 o'clock. The clerk of the course surveys the scene, and so do 250,000 spectators. Young Castellotti has his Ferrari in the lead from teammate Malioli. Then comes Mike Hawthorne, the American and Belgian entered Jaguars, Peter Collins Aston Martin, the 2-litre Ferrari, Parnell's Lagonda, the Mercs of Levesque and Kling, then Bob Dixon's TR2. Jaguar pursues Ferrari. Don Bowman closes on Phil Walters. Macklin settles down to the job, and Bob Dixon chases hard. As the twin-boom Nardi gets wound up, the orderly routine work in the Triumph pit moves smoothly into operation. For this race is to last for 24 hours, and these are but the opening minutes. As in the pit, so on the road. Bob Dixon laps steadily according to the prearranged plan, backed up by Ken Richardson's car. Les Brooks, however, goes very fast indeed right from the start. Pierre Levesque in Mercedes number 20 is content to leave it to Fangio to dice with Hawthorne in the lead, and the Frenchman lies behind the Kling-Simon Mercedes, which is fifth. Fangio and Moss make more use of their air brakes than the other Mercedes drivers, and their car, which lies second to Hawthorne's Jaguar, is about to lap its two teammates. Now Castellotti was finding it increasingly difficult to hold the two leaders, and Malione was closing on him. At Tertre Rouge, the corner leading onto the 3 miles of near straight to Mulsanne, seconds can be saved in the acceleration time to peak revs in top. Here, during their great duel, Hawthorne and Fangio were using every inch of road on the right-hander that seems to go on just that little bit too far for comfort. It's a good place to watch technique. Here's Castellotti, followed by Cornet's little 750 DB, Duntov's Porsche, and Mike Sparken's 3-litre Ferrari, which had early trouble. Coming up to halfway through the third hour, the first of the scheduled pit stops are being made. The time, 6:26. Levesque's Mercedes has hit Lance Macklin's Austin Healey. The veteran Frenchman is killed instantly. Macklin escapes by a miracle, but the flaming wreckage of the German car, together with the blast of what appears to be a major explosion, wreaks havoc in the dense crowd of spectators. Drivers, unaware of the magnitude of the disaster, continue with the job in hand. But marshals and mechanics now tackle the tricky task of moving the wreckage of the Healey. For a long time, the Mercedes burns at the roadside. The race has brought with it the worst disaster in motor racing history. Now, Ivor Bueb has taken over number 6 from Hawthorne, and Sterling Moss will lead Fangio in number 19. Bert Hadley brings the TR2 to the pit for a routine stop. All 3 Triumphs are running precisely as they should. No facilities other than the addition of fuel and oil are called for. Ken Richardson takes over for his 3-hour spell of effort, and another incidental fragment is written into the drama which is Le Mans. But at Tertre Rouge, fortunes can change in a fraction of a second. Les Brook comes into the corner. And the Sandbanks claim another victim, albeit saving the driver from physical injury. Meantime, at the pits also, fortunes continue to fluctuate as the battle in the classes is well and truly joined. The McAlpine Thompson Connaught was a fancied British challenger in the 1.5-litre group. But after going extremely well initially, the car was destined to be out of the race by midnight. Not so our Mr. Brooks. No doubt recalling the delights of seaside holidays as a child, Leslie puts his back into the sandcastle business. Sterling Moss now leads the race for Mercedes, although the lap record at 121.9 still stands to Hawthorne's Jaguar. In the pits, the work which can win or lose this race continues hour by hour. As one car rejoins the circuit, another is expected in. Engrossed in the routine of effort and rest, drivers begin to lose touch with normal time. Mechanics are thinking in terms of tire wear. Timekeepers count the hours in minutes and seconds. But out at Tertre Rouge, Les Brook counts the minutes by the shovelful. Along with the Mercedes, no fewer than 6 Porsches represent the German industry. This is the car shared by Seidel and Olivier Genderby. Nearby in the Triumph pit, a meticulous watch is kept on the smooth progress of the TR2s, and the drivers are kept fully informed on matters of speed and maintenance. Now Bob Dixon brings number 28 up to the counter for another routine stop. The car has been lapping consistently at around the 90 miles an hour mark, leading the Richardson-Hadley car, but with the pair of them running like the proverbial trains and adjacent in their position in the field. But now prompt action avoids disaster. A spill of oil ignites immediately on contact with the exhaust manifold, but is instantly extinguished. Ninian Sanderson leaps from the pit counter, but mindful of the regulations, he opens and closes the door before accelerating away up the gentle gradient towards the Dunlop Bridge. Meantime, at Tertre Rouge, by this time the field is thinning out, and as it does so, the cars in British Racing Green become conspicuous for their reliability. At 9 p.m., Carl Kling is 10th, 25 miles behind Moss. Malioli is 3rd, behind Hawthorne. It's Mercedes, Jaguar, Ferrari, Jaguar, Maserati. A struggle as international as any ever seen at Le Mans, and it's running at record speed. Now the problem of failing light is added to the increasing strain on drivers. But to Les Brook, the twilight was to bring the reward for his heroic efforts. And if you don't believe that digging at Le Mans is thirsty work, try it yourself sometime. At the 8th hour, the position had changed. The Mercedes led the Jaguar by nearly 2 laps. But the Kling-Simon car was a further 2 laps back and 3rd, with the other 2 Works Jaguars on its tail. Now Le Mans assumed its midnight gaiety, for even now the vast crowds at the circuit had no idea of the magnitude of the disaster 6 hours before. But at 2 a.m. the Mercedes are withdrawn. At that time, Moss led Hawthorne by a lap and a half, but the Jaguar had a pit stop in hand, and there were 14 hours to go. A race is never over till it's won, and there were further drastic changes in the next 2 hours. The Ferrari challenge ended in anticlimax as one by one they failed. The Bowman-Dewis Jaguar left the road. The Maserati of Valenzano and Musso climbed through the depleted field. As daylight returned to the circuit, the Hawthorne-Buick Jaguar led by 5 laps at 111 miles an hour from the Maserati. 1 lap behind came the Peter Collins Ford for Aston Martin, then the Rolls Hamilton Jaguar, which was obviously in trouble. In the Triumph pit, breakfast was taken in good heart. All 3 cars were running as well as ever and had improved their positions during those trying hours of darkness. Les Brook and Mort Goodall were making up for time lost on the sandbank, and the other 2 cars, completely production machines, remember, were 17th and 18th in the field. But others were not so fortunate. The Maserati in 2nd place was failing. With daylight came the rain, but still the crowds, fascinated by the struggle, stood closely packed along the rails. Hawthorne drove on with undiminished mastery. Peter Collins embarked upon a grim pursuit of the Maserati. This was still a motor race with a vengeance. As the morning wore on, Peter Collins' Aston Martin wore down that Maserati challenge. The Italian car was abandoned, and British cars were 1, 2, 3. So, to the closing hours. For the last time, number 28 comes into the pit. Bob Dixon has done all that was asked of him, and to Ninian Sanderson will go the satisfaction of seeing the checkered flag. At the Bristol pit, there is some closing stage anxiety. The cars are aiming to finish once again 1, 2, 3 in the 2-litre class, but are being harried by the 1500cc Porsches. The question is, will the Bristols accept the challenge or ignore it to make sure of the class award? Now in comes Bert Hadley for his final stop. The team of Triumph mechanics tackled this, their last task, with the satisfaction of men who know they are nearing the completion of a good job well done. But Ken Richardson, taking over, knows that the final hour brings with it a particular nervous strain. One serious mistake, and all this effort could still so easily be lost. The Aston is second. The new MG has made its bow. The Belgian Jaguar is third, and nothing can stop Mike Hawthorn now. Le Mans of 1955 is over. The winner had covered a record distance of 2,592 miles at 107 miles an hour. The pace throughout the race in every class had been a killing one. Yet of the 21 cars which passed the checkered flag, 13 were products of the British industry, an achievement of which we may all be justly proud. And although the race must go down in the annals as one of tragedy, let no one gainsay the heroic drive of Mike Hawthorn and his partner Ivor Buick. The 3 production model Triumph TR2s had done exactly what they set out to do. Their final placings, 14th, 15th and 19th in the general classification, was no mean achievement against a field made up largely of near single-seater racing cars. In the hands of distinguished drivers, 3 started, 3 finished. And throughout the 24 hours of Le Mans, not one encountered a single mechanical failure of any kind.